My name is Michel de Montaigne. I was born in 1533, and as a young man, I studied law at the universities of Périgueux and Toulouse. After I finished my studies, my father bought me a seat in Parliament, and that's how I got involved in politics. But shortly after that, my father got ill and died. And it was a terrible blow, because I had the best of all fathers. But the way he died was so courageous and so full of dignity that still today it is a source of inspiration for me. One day, during the last weeks of his life, he told me, Micho, that's how he always called me, Micho, life is a passage. It is a passage between not yet and no more, between appearance and disappearance. And then, on the morning of his death, he took my hand and he said, "Don't weep, my boy. We go the same way as we came, from an unknown origin to an unknown destination. I'm going to make place for others, just as others made place for me. I inherited everything from my father. His estate, his chateau, and his title. So now I'm Seigneur de Montaigne. But after his death, I felt a strong need to withdraw from politics. I wanted to find myself, my innermost self. How? Through that silent dialogue between me and myself, which we call thinking. I try to follow the contours of myself, of my innermost self. And I started to write these dialogues down as essays. And then, did I find peace? No. I didn't like myself. I wanted to change. But can you? You think you can change? I don't think so. I think you have to accept yourself the way you are, with your talents and with your shortcomings. And with that, turn your life into a work of art. Become a life's artist with what you are. Let me explain. A painter uses colors and lines to make a piece of art. The composer, sounds, melodies, harmonies. The poet, words, rhyme, rhythm. The life's artist, he uses life as his material. Well then, turn that material into a wonderful, harmonious, peaceful journey through time. That is what I call the art of living. Now, let me ask you a question. What would you say? Do you master the art of living? Are you a life's artist? Why don't you give that a thought? Well, my friends, I have to confess, I didn't become the life's artist I wanted to become. No. In my later years, I developed kidney stones. Good gracious, are they painful. But in my agony, I had to think of my wise father who always said, a long life is like a long journey. And on a long journey, one is expected to experience rain, storm, ice, snow, and hail. So don't complain. I took that advice at heart and visited the famous health spas in Europe, Germany, Switzerland, and finally, Rome. What I did in Rome? Do as the Romans do, of course. First I fell in love, then I had an audience with the Holy Father, and finally I visited the most beautiful library in the world, the Vatican Library. Let me ask you something. Do you like to travel? Yes? Most people don't, you know. No, they hate it. They hate the discomfort. They hate the unknown. And they try to cultivate their own lifestyle abroad. It never works, of course. As I said in Rome, do as the Romans do. I myself, I love to travel. Because for me, to travel is to live. And to live is to travel through time. I regard the journeys I make like little miniatures of that much larger one that we call life. You know what I discovered on my journeys? In travel, you always experience limited scopes. We can never see the entire landscape the Almighty has created. Sometimes on horseback, you wander through the dense forests where you see nothing but leaves and trees. Sometimes you travel the sunny uplands and marvel the wide horizons. But you can never see it all. As human beings, we only have limited perspectives. And in life it's the same, whether we like it or not. Our individual horizons are always limited. We can move from one standpoint to the other, for sure. Yes, you can change perspectives. But for us human beings, there is no absolute standpoint. And therefore, I think that there is no absolute truth. What do you think? Is there something like an absolute truth? Why don't you give that some thought? Is there an absolute truth? Did you know that I've been the mayor of Bordeaux? Oh, yes. I was even elected when I was abroad. So when I came back to Bordeaux, I addressed the city council, trying to change their mind. But they wouldn't change their decision. And so I presented my guidelines of politics. 1. Never do things that you don't want to discuss publicly. And 2. Always take the views of others into consideration. It worked because I was even re-elected. Bordeaux then, a beautiful city, founded by the Aquitani, the people of the water's edge, riverside. Still the meaning of Bordeaux today, riverside. Now, if you want to understand this region, you must know Eleanor of Aquitaine. Have you heard of her? I'm quite proud to be a compatriot of hers. She was a passionate and beautiful woman, and married to Louis VII, King of France. But the king was such a pious man that poor Eleanor often complained being married to a monk. What a tragedy. Even the Pope got involved, and he ordered Louis VII to spend at least one night a month with Eleanor. That worked. She did get pregnant, but gave birth to a daughter. Divorce followed. 3 months later, Eleanor married the heir to the throne of England, Henry II, Henry Plantagenet, and the marriage took place in the Cathedral of Bordeaux. For a long time, Aquitaine has been subject to English rule, and since that time, many wars have been fought between the French and the English. But during my life, the French were no longer fighting a foreign enemy. No. We were fighting ourselves. French Protestants fighting French Catholics. These wars of religion have torn the nation apart. I hate to admit that I've witnessed the most undescribable atrocities. Have you heard of Bartholomew's Night? In which thousands and thousands of Protestants were murdered in Paris. I've always been a man of tolerance. But now in my later years I realize that there can only be tolerance when people understand that there is no absolute truth. Now suppose there is no absolute truth. Could you accept the consequences? The consequences that other people have other beliefs, just as valid as yours. Are you tolerant? Could you tolerate people with other beliefs? Do you accept people with convictions other than yourselves? Why don't you give that some thought? When I discuss the wars of religion in France, I've been carried away by pessimism. Pardon. I don't want to leave you like that. Because pessimism is an emotional state of mind which interferes with my search for inner peace. Well then, let's not despair about the past, and let us not worry too much about the future. Let us live in the present. Let's experience the here and now. Let's live in time and realize that in time, timing is crucial. Look for the precious moments in time. Look for the sublime moment in singing, in dancing, in hunting, in cooking, in speech and silence, and most of all, in making love. My language bears witness to the understanding of the importance of timing. In French, happiness is bonheur, the good hour. That means that happiness is not a state of permanence. Happiness is a floating moment. It is. The moment I realize I'm happy, that precious moment has already passed. Enough. I will leave you wishing you well. But even more than well-being, I wish you moments of happiness. Bonheur. Au revoir, mes amis. See you again, my friends. In case we will not meet again in this world, we might meet in the next one. Who knows? In that case, I should say, adieu. Until that time, sail on and farewell.